When it comes to asylum seekers, it's really crucial that they should be able to tell their story in a convincing way to decision makers who are deciding whether or not they should be given refugee status within the UK. If they tell a story that isn't convincing and their case might subsequently be dismissed and they might be denied the protection that they need. So you can have situations where asylum seekers tell an account that's generally full of truths, is accurate, so they're telling a true story about how they need protection, but that account can contain inaccuracies because they've failed to properly remember the past. Their memories can become distorted because of trauma that they've experienced. Now, of course, they can have experienced trauma in their country of origin before leaving to get to the UK, but there are empirical studies suggesting that actually being put in certain situations within the UK, being placed in conditions where they're not able to properly support themselves, and also being often placed in a position of being in limbo while their appeal is considered, because often asylum claims go to appeal. And this can mean that they're more likely to experience trauma. The trauma that they experience can be exacerbated, and this can have the effect that they can't properly remember the past. So if they end up in a situation where they misremember details of the past and then they try to provide their account, they might be disbelieved because the decision makers within the asylum process can pick up on the inaccuracies contained within their accounts. And there's work showing that asylum decision makers often generalise from evidence of small inaccuracies, small falsities in the claims made by asylum seekers to the conclusion that they're altogether untrustworthy and their claims should be dismissed. So you can see how there could be situations where policies that are hostile or create an environment that might be deemed to be hostile can impose trauma, which can lead people not to be able to provide accurate accounts, which then mean that they're not given the protection that they need because any inaccuracies that are included in their accounts are taken to illustrate that their account is generally unreliable, shouldn't be trusted and should be dismissed. I think it's important to notice that it's not only in the asylum context where these sorts of things can happen. So whenever a policy is brought in and made law that creates a more hostile environment for a group of individuals, be it the increase in use of stop and search powers or other judgments about whether or not people who've been victims of sexual assault should have their information, their data collected and accessed by other individuals, that these sorts of policies can have a similar sort of effect. They can have these negative effects on the epistemic agent, that is the person who's been the victim of these sorts of policies.